Okay, Salentang, I think your camera is upside down. You're still upside down. Or are you trying to be Spider-Man? Okay, you're back.
Spider shot.
Teachers, brothers and sisters, and all other world to me. Amen.
Amen. Good morning, children.
Good morning, sir.
Now, regarding the First World War, we have to look at the effects on India. But let us actually begin with what exactly happened in the First World War. We have the Central Powers or the Quadruple Alliance. Quadruple means a group of four. Unos, dos, tres, cuadros. Cuadros mean four. So you have Germany, you have the Austria or the Austro-Hungarian Empire, you have Bulgaria, and you have the Empire of the Ottomans or the Turks. Now it is identified as Turkey. So these are the powers. On one side, they are called the Central Powers. And then on the other side, we know it as the Triple Entente. Entente is a French word. It means a friendship or an informal alliance or an informal understanding. Now, these three powers were Russia, Great Britain or England, and France. Later on, as the war progressed, Italy, Romania, Japan, and the United States joined, and all of these powers came to be known as the Allied powers. Russia withdrew a little early in the war, but still at the beginning of the war, they were counted as part of the Triple Entente. Okay, look at the map. If you look at the dark areas, these are the Entente or the Allied forces. The orange sections are the Central Powers. There is Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Turks. So it was a world war because fighting took place in so many areas. Most of the fighting took place in Europe, along Belgium, along France, and in Turkey or the Turkish Peninsula, parts of Africa, and even parts of Papua New Guinea. So it was a world war, but most of the fighting took place in Belgium and France. And at that time, this is 1917, India was still a colony of the British, or still under the direct rule or the crown rule of the British. This was a terrible war. The estimates is that 10 million is 1 crore. 1 million is 10 lakhs, so 10 million is 1 crore. About 10 million or 1 crore soldiers died. And overall, if you count civilians and all those who died, it would be double that amount. So about 2 crores people have died. The results of the war is that the map of Europe was redrawn. The boundaries were not really the same after the First World War. When the United States joined the war, they joined it a little later, but it marked the beginning or the rise of their power. They began to be identified and recognized as a global power. Now, one of the things people don't talk about, and this is the main issue or the main point which I want to bring up today, is that in 1918, there was an epidemic or a pandemic. The estimates are that it killed about 20 to 50 million people. 20 million would be how many crores?
2 crores.
2 crores to 5 crores people died. So one of the few things in history no one really talks about or somehow minimizes it is this. Let us continue. Now, the Indians also contributed to the war. They organized something called the Indian Expeditionary Force. About 1.5 million or 15 lakhs, they volunteered to fight. These were the men from Punjab, from UP, from Uttar Pradesh, from Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, from Bihar. Now, one of the reasons they volunteered was it was an opportunity or a chance to break through the caste system. Caste system was and still is a very major influence in Indian society. And this was also there during that time. So, suppose a person from a lower caste joined the war, he would become a soldier. And a soldier, by definition, automatically becomes a part of the warrior caste or the Kshatriya caste. So, it offered a chance to promote themselves in the caste system. Now, where did they fight? They fought mainly on the Western Front, that is Belgium and France, in East Africa, Mesopotamia or Egypt, and in Gallipoli or the Turkish peninsula. The estimates are that 50,000 died, about 65,000 were wounded, 10,000 were reported missing. A loan was given to the British government. In those days, it was 2 billion. 2 billion is about 200 crores today. Now, 200 crores even today is still a big amount. This was a loan that was given to the British government. From the Indian side of things, during the First World War, they did not oppose the British, rather they supported it. And they volunteered not just in men, in materials, but in money as well. Now in Manipur, they organized a labor corps. At that time, the Maharaja was Maharaja Churachand Singh. The Maharaja also contributed one aeroplane and four motor ambulances, and in all, about 1 lakh of rupees. Now, 1 lakh of rupees in those times was quite a big amount, a decent amount. Now, one of the things which no one talks about is that during 1980, a global pandemic also broke out, and it has been wrongly or mistakenly identified as the Spanish flu, which it was actually not. The only reason why it's called the Spanish flu is because in Spain, the press or the media reported it. The soldiers or the Indians who went to fight in the war, when they returned back, they also unfortunately got infected. In India itself, India was the worst affected country in 1918 due to the influenza epidemic. The official report is that 12 to 13 million people died. Now, this is as per the census report of 1921. But it also played a critical role in altering or changing the course of Indian history. Okay, you can see how it affected hospitals, similar to what is happening now. Everywhere, hospitals and doctors and nurses, they were overwhelmed, not just in India, in most parts of the world. In India, one of the reasons why so many people died, the medical infrastructure was in a shambles. Shambles means a very, very poor and pathetic conditions. Now, this created a vacuum or a gap. In a crisis like this, the good thing about is that the Indians came together and they united to fight this disease. Now, during the pandemic itself, information was restricted, it was limited, and quite confusing. And in any case, people were dying in large numbers in the war. And the thing about pandemics is that it spreads very fast. Now, with Corona or COVID 19, you can see how just from what started in December, now it is already April, it has spread in every part of the world, including Manipur. Now, this speed is common to all pandemics. And during that time, this is 1918. 1918, there is no internet, there is no social media, there is no live TV broadcast. And so people really found it very difficult to understand what was going on. The British also were quite apathetic. Now, apathy is a word, unfortunately, applies to many of us during this COVID 19 situation. Now, the word apathy in the dictionary, it means a lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern, or it simply means an indifference. Now, when the whole world is going through a crisis like this is something we really don't need at the moment. We need to show an interest or a concern for others. Part of the reason why I am taking up this online classes and I'm also sharing it, I'm not looking to find so many views and likes and subscribers on YouTube or any other platform. The idea is that any student who is watching this and also get some benefit out of it. And that would satisfy me. Mahatma Gandhi had also come in 1914 to India, and he also got sick. He also contracted the Spanish flu. Gandhi was a very disciplined person, and he followed a strictly liquid diet. And yes, he recovered, and he became the greatest leader of independence of India. Now, if he had not survived, history would have been very much different. Now, death and misery was everywhere. Now, people started to get more angry against the British, and people rallied behind Gandhi and the independence movement. When the British did not do anything to help them, people or the grassroots workers, they came in and they helped people. Now, people's anger or emotion against the British was even higher, and they were more united than before. And they found a leader in Gandhi and they stood behind him. Now, Gandhi also found that somehow the grassroots support that had been lacking suddenly was there in 1918. In your time of difficulty, when someone helps you, you will always remember that person. As they said, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Isn't it true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The thing about pandemics is that it has its own course. It has to run it. It starts very fast, it spreads, and then it subsides. Now the same thing happened in India. It spread very fast. Many people died, many people got sick, many people suffered, but it also subsided. This COVID-19 also will subside. So this is just a phase we have to get through it. At the same time, but that this is not 1918. We have very good health infrastructure, and the governments are very responsive and proactive. In the past, the people of rural India would probably not be very much concerned about the Congress party or with Gandhi or with independence or freedom. To them, it's all about survival. As long as they found a means to support their families, they got a little money at the end of the day, they are happy. And this is the same situation that we have till now today also. But then after this, the pandemic hit and so many people died, and the British, who were supposed to be the rulers, they neglected them. Then they found the support for the freedom or the national movement. Calamities or disasters, it can change us for the better. It can change societies and governments. What they didn't do in the past, they're doing now. You all, for example, most of you thought that, oh, why should I go to school? What do I do there? But now you can't wait to go back to school, isn't it? But now I think as soon as we announce school is open, you will be knocking the gate right from early in the morning. So situation change, and for the better. We begin to appreciate each other. We begin to appreciate families and relationships or academics to study the 1918 pandemic and how we rebuild ourselves from there. For a student of class 10, you also need to understand that in a grave situation like this, people can find unity and they can find strength. What is not needed at the moment is apathy. Apathy, as I said, is a lack of concern or lack of understanding. When you have a little bit of care and concern, it goes a very long way. All right.